You've always felt it. That strange pull when a moment from years ago suddenly feels closer than yesterday. That déjà vu that makes no logical sense. That deep knowing before anything actually happens. And yet, you've been taught time is simple. Past, present, future. A straight line. One direction. One pace. But your soul doesn't agree. Because your soul doesn't move in lines. It moves in spirals. It remembers things you've never learned. It aches for places you've never been. It whispers truths that don't fit your age, your story, your clock. So what if time isn't what you think? What if it's not a law, but a lens? What if the ticking of clocks isn't the rhythm of reality, but just a system made to make your world measurable, predictable, and small? Because when you stop asking what time is and start asking what it's doing to you, you begin to realize time isn't just passing, it's trapping. You were taught to see your life as a straight line. Born here, grow there, end somewhere else. Milestones, deadlines, a constant pressure to be on time, as if your truth could ever be scheduled. But here's the trap. When you think in lines, you begin to limit your identity to what has already happened. You start believing you are your history, that your future is just a result of your past. You use age to define wisdom. You use clocks to measure worth. You treat later like it's more real than now. And in doing that, you forget your nature. You forget that you are not a point on a line. You are a field, timeless, non-linear, multidimensional. That insight you had yesterday, it didn't come from the past. It came from outside time. That vision you saw as a child, it wasn't imagination. It was memory from another layer of your being trying to reach you. But if you only move forward, you never look inward. And that's how time becomes your cage. It teaches you to chase when your truth is meant to arrive. From the moment you could speak, you were put on a timeline. Walk by this age, read by that one, graduate, work, marry, succeed, on schedule. And if you didn't, you weren't just late, you were wrong, not evolving, failing. But failing what? A clock? A system? An illusion? Because the truth is, your soul never agreed to that schedule. Your becoming is cyclical, spontaneous, layered. But they trained you to measure your worth by what you've done by when. To panic if you're behind. To rush healing. To force purpose. To fake progress. And what did that do? It didn't make you more productive. It made you disconnected from your natural pace, from divine timing, from your internal compass that never needed a deadline to be real. You started confusing urgency with alignment, motion with meaning, busy with becoming, and so you ran, but not forward, just away from yourself, because every time you listened to the clock, you stopped listening to your soul. What if time isn't a force, but a framework? Not something that moves you forward, but something your mind uses to organize what it can't control. Because in the deeper layers of reality, there is no past, no future. There is only presence and perspective. Consciousness isn't moving through time. Time is moving through consciousness. And your soul, it lives outside of it. That's why you can remember lifetimes you never lived. Why you can feel the ache of something that hasn't happened yet. Why dreams, visions, and sudden knowing collapse time completely. Because your soul doesn't age. It expands, not forward, inward. The truth. Time is a story your brain tells so it can feel safe inside a universe that is far too vast for straight lines. And once you realize that, you stop thinking in terms of later. You stop delaying your truth. You stop segmenting your aliveness. You become present. And presence is the only real timeline your soul ever needed. When you stop believing in linear time, you don't disappear into chaos. You arrive, fully, finally, here. Because the truth is, everything you were chasing in the future was always coded into this moment. Peace. It's not ahead of you. It's underneath your current noise. Healing. It's not waiting down the road. It's in the breath you haven't fully taken yet. Love. Not after you fix yourself. It's already inside, just quiet beneath the shame. When you leave the timeline, you leave the chase. You stop looking for permission. You stop waiting for signs. You stop negotiating with clocks as if they hold the keys to your becoming. You start listening not to schedules, but to signals. Signals from your body, from your gut, from the subtle frequency that tells you when something is aligned, even if it doesn't make sense. And suddenly, you're not progressing. You're participating in life, in stillness, in the miracle of what's already here. Because when you no longer ask, what's next? You finally see what's now. Ever had a moment that felt like it already happened? Not just familiarity, certainty, a flash, a chill, a whisper. I've been here before. But how could you? What if that memory wasn't from your past, but from your future self reaching back? We call it déjà vu, coincidence, glitch in the matrix. But maybe it's proof that time is not a line, it's a loop, or better yet, a spiral, where everything you've ever been and everything you're becoming exist in layers around the same center, you. That's why certain patterns repeat. Not because you're failing, but because your soul is circling back to complete something. That's why the same emotions visit, not to punish, but to remind. Not everything you feel belongs to the now. Some of it is residue, some of it is resonance. And once you stop dividing time into before and after, you start reading your experiences like symbols, like signals, like messages from other versions of you trying to get your attention. This isn't time travel, this is time truth, and your soul already knows how to navigate it. Linear time didn't just limit your perspective, it isolated your soul. Because once you believe that everything is separate, past behind you, future ahead of you, you stop trusting what's beneath you, within you, beyond you. You stop tuning in. You start measuring, comparing, racing. And that's exactly the point. A soul rushing to stay on time is too distracted to listen inward. It forgets that intuition speaks in pulses, not hours. That the heart doesn't follow calendars, it follows resonance. But when society traps you in a timeline, you become predictable, easy to manage, easy to market to, easy to guilt, too young, too old, too early, too late. And suddenly, you're not a being, you're a product on a schedule. But your soul, it doesn't play by those rules. It knows when to rest. It knows when to leap. It knows when something is ready before logic can catch up. That knowing, that timeless rhythm, is the real threat. Because once you move by that rhythm, you stop following systems. You start flowing with source. And that's the shift they hoped you'd never make. Once you step outside the trap of linear time, you don't lose structure, you find flow. You start to feel into a deeper rhythm, not measured in minutes, but in moments. Moments that expand, moments that slow down, moments that stretch so wide, they hold lifetimes of feeling in one breath. This is not clock time, this is soul time. And soul time doesn't rush. It ripens, it reveals, it lands when it's ready. It's why some things take years and others unfold in a single afternoon that feels eternal. It's why you can meet a stranger and feel lifetimes between you, or revisit an old wound and find it already healed without ever doing the work. Because soul time doesn't tick. It moves, like a tide, like breath, like memory. And once you start living by that rhythm, everything changes. You stop saying, I should be farther by now. You start asking, what is true right now? And in that question, you return to presence, to permission, to peace that doesn't come from being early or late, but from finally being here. Time doesn't disappear when you wake up. It transforms. It stops being a cage and becomes a compass, a way to feel into cycles, to sense when to move, when to pause, when to let go. You begin to read time not by numbers, but by vibration. The way your body tenses before a change arrives. The way synchronicity starts to cluster before a breakthrough. The way silence stretches right before truth speaks. Time becomes a teacher, but only when you stop obeying it like a master. Because in higher awareness, time isn't fixed. It bends, it expands, it responds to your clarity, to your intention, to your alignment. You speak with it, not through calendars, but through consciousness. And in that space, you realize something. You were never meant to manage time. You were meant to dance with it. And like any good dance, it's not about keeping the beat. It's about feeling the rhythm. Your rhythm. The one you had before they taught you to be on schedule. You were never behind. You were just measuring your life with a ruler that wasn't made for your shape. You were never late. You were moving in a spiral, not a straight line. And you were never stuck. You were simply being asked to pause until your presence could catch up with your becoming. Time didn't fail you. It just couldn't hold you. Because your soul is older than clocks, wider than calendars, deeper than progress. It moves in pulses. It speaks in signals. It arrives when you're ready, not when the world says go. So take a breath, not to move faster, but to drop back into the truth. You were never made to race. You were made to resonate. And now that you remember, you don't need more time. You just need this moment, fully. Because this still, sacred now, is where your power lives. Not someday,